Africa Maibuye movement. To start with, the leadership of Africa Maibuye movement will be as follows. So these are the structures that we have in Maibuye. The first structure is the National Convention, followed by the National General Convention, the Council of Elders, the Presidency, the National Court Team, the National Officials, the Chaplaincy, the National Secretariat, Provincial Court Teams, Provincial Officials, Regional Court Teams, Regional Officials, Sub-Regional Court Teams, Branch Court Teams, Voting District Court Teams, Africa Maibuye Movement Branch. On Section 8, which speaks to the meetings of Maibuye, they are listed as a total of 14. The first meeting of the organization is the National Convention, which shall meet once after every 5 years. And the National General Convention shall meet once in between the National Convention. The National Court Team shall meet at least once every 2 months. The National Secretariat shall convene before every meeting of the national officials to ensure proper preparation, coordination, and alignment of organizational matters. We also have the extended National Secretariat comrades, which includes the provincial secretaries and provincial organizers. They will also be joined, this meeting will also be joined by secretaries and organizers of the fraternal structures. The provincial court team shall meet on a monthly basis to review provincial work and oversee recruitment drives and coordinate regional and sub-regional programs. We have the provincial officials that shall meet on a weekly basis, comrades, to provide operational leadership, evaluate progress, and address urgent matters affecting the province. We have the regional court teams that shall meet monthly, the regional officials that should convene weekly, the sub-regional court teams that should meet at least once a month, the branch court team which meets weekly, the voting district court teams which will meet weekly. The Africa Maibuye movement branches shall hold monthly meetings. So you are called upon as branches to have monthly general meetings where you are going to receive reports, engage in political education, and plan local campaigns in each of the wards throughout the country. Any member who fails to attend, this is an issue that was raised earlier on. Any member who fails to attend 3 consecutive meetings of their structure without a valid reason or a prior apology shall automatically cease to be a member of that respective structure. So that issue that was raised by a comrade, that side has been fully covered here. Now in Section 9, we speak to the status, roles, functions of Africa Maibuye movement. The first function would be the National Convention, which is planned to sit later in November. The National Convention of Africa Maibuye movement is the highest decision-making body of the movement and is defined by and responsible for the following discussion, amendments, adoption of the Constitution of Maibuye, meaning that after we have deliberated on this Constitution, it will be referred to the National Convention, which shall ratify this particular document. The inaugural National Convention of Africa Maibuye will establish the organization and adopt its founding policies and principles. The second National Convention will only be convened after 7 years. The National Convention is responsible for the establishment, meaning the appointment of national leadership. And consideration will be given to several factors, include but not limited to gender parity, geographical spread, leadership capacity, and standing to society. The delegation of the convention is determined by the national officials of the movement and must necessarily have delegates from all provinces, delegates from at least 90% of the regions of South Africa and at least 80% of the sub-regions. So combined, the regions of South Africa are 54. So the delegates should at least represent 90% of that 54 and 80% of the sub-regions, meaning that for those that have metros, they have divided sub-regions into areas, but then with districts, municipalities will be considered as sub-regions. The National General Convention is a midterm convention of Africa Maibuye and is defined by and responsible for the following. It will review policies and formulate such policies. It will also, should a need arise, supplement the national core team. The third structure, comrades, is the Council of Elders, whose responsibilities include offering strategic guidance and advisory to the President, the national officials, and the NCT on key policy decisions and organizational directions, mediating internal disputes and conflicts within the movement to maintain harmony and unity among members, preserving and promoting the cultural, traditional, and spiritual heritage of South Africa in alignment with the movement liberation objectives, ensuring ethical standards and integrity, that standards and integrity are upheld in all activities and decisions of the movement, mentoring leaders and providing wisdom to nurture the next generation of activists, engaging the communities, traditional authorities, and religious groups to build grassroots support and gather insights for the movement, advising on matters related to social justice, economic emancipation, and anti-imperialist strategies to advance African renewal, monitoring the implementation of the movement's policies and programs, representing the movement in dialogues with royals, religious and traditional institutions across the country, fostering interfaith and intercultural harmony to strengthen national cohesion. Comrade, the fourth structure that we have in Maibuye is the Presidency. The Presidency has the following office bearers. We have the President, the two Deputy Presidents, the Head of Presidency, the National Chairperson, the Deputy National Chairperson, the Head of Political Education, the Head of Special Projects, the Head of Policy, the Head of International Relations, the Head of Communications, the Chief Administrator, and the Chairperson of Social Assistance. Meeting of the Presidency will be presided over by the President and will meticulously coordinate, with meticulous coordination ensured by the Head of Presidency, thereby fostering an atmosphere of disciplined deliberation, collective wisdom, and principled decision-making that draws inspiration from the lessons of revolutionary struggle, where theory must always be united with concrete practice to illuminate the path forward, exemplified in the unyielding commitment to mobilizing the people against imperialism, neocolonial domination, recognizing that true liberation demands the active participation of the masses in transforming their material conditions. Now, the functions of the Presidency is, in carrying these functions, the Presidency will appraise the National Secretariat and provide rigorous guidance and constructive criticism and supporting oversight to strengthen the overall organizational structure and enhance its capacity to serve the people effectively. The Presidency facilitates internal cohesion by organizing forums for principled dialogue that promote mutual respect, collective discipline, and a harmonious resolution of contradictions amongst members. The Presidency develops educational programs which will rise and empower people politically, consciously, and ideologically. It also oversees targeted interventions and special projects with diligence. Will craft comprehensive policy frameworks that will advance social justice and economic redistribution. It will build alliances abroad through diplomatic maturity and internationalist solidarity by engaging with our global partners to amplify the movement's cause and draw support from progressive forces worldwide in a fight against global imperialism, recognition, and the interconnectedness of liberation struggles across the continent. The Presidency will also articulate the movement's message with clarity, responsibility, and revolutionary zeal, whilst ensuring transparency. and collectively will monitor the implementation of policy with humility and scientific vigor. The Presidency engages in crisis response by harnessing its diverse expertise in its members. It will also advocate for resource mobilization with professionalism and strategic foresight. Through social assistance programs under its purview, the Presidency directs and coordinates initiatives aimed at providing immediate relief. The fifth structure is the national officials. The national officials will consist of the President, the Deputy President, the Secretary General, 2 Deputy Secretary Generals, National Chairperson, Deputy National Chairperson, National Organizer, Deputy National Organizer, Treasurer General, Fundraiser General, and Chaplain General. Will also include the heads of portfolios, and the portfolios will be the head of Presidency, the head of Secretary General's office, Chief Administrator, head of Special Projects, head of Political Education and Publication, National Head of Mobilization and Campaign, head of Legal Affairs, head of Policy Development and Research, head of Traditional and Royal Affairs, head of Membership, head of Elections, the President of the Youth, the President of Women, the President of Students, the Chairperson of Social Assistance, the Chairperson of Communication, the Chairperson of the Professional Committee, the Chairperson of Maibuya Medics, and any other member that the national officials might resolve to invite into the officials. Their collective responsibility will be considered along the lines of the National Working Committee and responsible for articulating the movement's political position, providing strategic leadership, and overseeing the implementation of both political directives and operational outcomes as resolved by the National Core Team. The national officials must collectively guide the strategic direction of Africa Maibuya by ensuring that all decisions align with its ideological principles and advance the liberation agenda. The NO are responsible for mobilizing resources and cadres on a daily basis, coordinating efforts to build the movement's capacity and reach. The national officials will oversee political education programs, collectively designing and implementing curricula. The national officials bear collective responsibility for financial stewardships of the organization and ensuring transparency throughout the process. The national officials will lead and coordinate social assistance. The national officials are tasked with maintaining discipline and ethical standards. The national officials will facilitate communication both internally and externally. The national officials will oversee policy development and research, collaborating daily to analyze societal contradictions and devise solutions rooted in Marxism. National officials must champion the integration of traditional and royal leadership, consulting collectively to honor the cultural heritage while advancing progressive goals. The national officials will be responsible for youth, women, student empowerment, coordinating initiatives across their perspective presidents to nurture future leaders. The national officials will handle legal affairs and in defense of the movement, working together daily to protect members and advance rights through strategic litigation and advocacy. And the national officials will oversee mobilization efforts, will promote Pan-Africanism, are obliged to appraise and evaluate the movement's progress, collectively reviewing reports and metrics on a daily basis, will lead by example, embodying revolutionary values, will bear collective responsibility for crisis response. In between meetings of the NCT, the national officials will hold powers of the NCT. The NCT will be provided reports relating to decisions pursuant thereto. Roles and responsibilities of the national officials, comrades, they are stated and quite generic to other constitution. The president is responsible for all presidential responsibilities that would be similar in other organizations. You have also the responsibilities of the first deputy president. On your own, you can go through that. You have the responsibilities of the second deputy president. Of all the officials, all the responsibilities have been have been listed up till we get to page. We've also listed the responsibilities of all the officials. And then the national core team, it's the sixth structure on page 85. The NCT of Maibuya serves as a central organ of collective leadership, embodying the revolutionary spirit of unity, discipline, and unwavering commitment to the emancipation of the masses. It's the highest decision-making body in between the national conventions. So in between the national conventions, this particular fora it becomes the highest decision-making body, and it convenes its meetings once every 2 months. In between meetings of the NCT, the national officials are permitted to take decisions on urgent matters to maintain momentum and responsiveness, but then they must present comprehensive and detailed reports to the NCT when it sits upholding transparency and collective accountability. Soon after this presentation, comrades are going to be presented with such a report, an organizational report. The composition of the NCT, it's all national officials, additional members of the NCTU must not exceed 60 leaders representing different sectors, provinces, and must be gender inclusive and geographically diverse. All must belong to a committee of the NCT and must be deployed to a specific province. Later on, we are going to also take a deployment report in this particular meeting. The chairpersons and secretaries of each province will form part of the NCT. The president, secretaries of Maibuya Women and Student Movement and the Youth Movement will form part. 4 members of the Council of Elders will form part. 4 representatives of the medics will form part. 4 representatives of Mausa will form part of the NCT. And the regional chairs of the metros throughout the country will form part of the NCT. The NCT as a collective bears the sacred duty to steer the movement towards total liberation, drawing strength from the shared dedication of its members to the revolutionary cause. Any member of the NCT who misses 2 consecutive meetings and does not respond to ground organizational work will automatically cease to be the member of the NCT. The NCT must collectively oversee the implementation of the movement's strategic objectives, whilst ensuring that all decisions reflect the will of the masses and advance the struggle of emancipation. The NCT members are not permitted to be factional or involved in factions and divisions. The NCT is responsible for fostering ideological coherence across the movement. It collectively manages the movement's resources. It must be knowledgeable and must be knowledgeably informed and aware of continuously engaging with political, economic, social developments to guide the movements effectively. They are not allowed to take advantage of lower structures, must always respect protocol. So members of the NCT, Tumelo coming from Gauteng, is not allowed to go and be involved in issues of the provincial leadership or in that particular region. The Constitution frowns upon that, and it provides the strategic guidance on policy development. The NCT is obliged to monitor and evaluate the performance of branches. The NCT must champion the integration of traditional, royal, and religious leadership by consulting collectively to honor cultural heritage while aligning it with progressive revolutionary goals. We have a structure, comrade, called Chaplaincy. The Chaplaincy is led by the Chaplain General. The Chaplaincy is mandated to lead and coordinate the religious desk of the movement. The role of the Chaplaincy is to provide spiritual guidance and counseling to members. The Chaplaincy must ensure that all provincial, regional, and sub-regional leaderships of Maibuya have a chaplain, Muruti, who is organizing a function at church tomorrow. The chaplaincy must develop internal protocols for internal funerals. So we will develop protocols to guide internal funerals as a movement, and the chaplaincy will be responsible for that, for developing such interventions. It is responsible for organizing and leading religious services. The chaplaincy must organize an annual national day of prayer by different religious groups and formations, essentially by all the chaplains of Africa Maibuye movement. The chaplaincy offers pastoral care during times of crisis. It promotes ethical and moral standards. It facilitates interfaith dialogue and collaboration, provides training and resources for spiritual development, monitors and addresses spiritual well-being. We also, comrades, have the National Secretariat. The National Secretariat, as the eighth structure, serves as, the Secretary General serves as its convener. The organizer serves as its coordinator. We have listed members of the National Secretariat as the SG, Head of Secretary General's Office, Deputy Secretary General's, National Organizer, Deputy National Organizer, the heads as listed there, and the Secretary Generals of the Women's Movement, the Youth Movement, and the Student Movement. It's an implementation and coordination body of Africa Maibui, responsible for the implementation of all the programs and activities in the movement. It also is primarily responsible for the implementation of the programs, events, and activities of the organization. It coordinates day-to-day administrative affairs, managing routine operations. It oversees the well-being of and maintenance of the organizational assets, including physical resources, financial holdings, intellectual property, to safeguard long-term sustainability and operational integrity. Handles secretarial functions such as documentation, record keeping, correspondence, ensuring accurate and timely management of information which flows within the organization. Supervises functioning of various departments and branches. It manages personnel matters including HR and the development of the human resources and the performance management of the human resources. It also organizes and facilitates meetings, conferences, gatherings such as this one, and ensuring that they are effectively planned and executed in advance for strategic discussion and unity. Monitors compliance with policies and programs, facilitates communication between the leadership and grassroots structures, prepares reports, analysis, and strategic documents, supporting informed decision making by President and the National Core Team. It also coordinates the external stakeholders and partners. Comrades, we have as a ninth structure. This section is the longest, and once we are done with this, we are done. So the ninth structure is the Provincial Convention. The Provincial Convention is the highest decision-making body of Africa Maibuye at a provincial level and serves as a platform for strategic reflection, accountability, policy alignment, and organizational renewal. It meets every 4 years, reviews and discusses provincial implementation of the movement's policies, assesses the performance of both collective and individual leadership at provincial, regional, and sub-regional level, evaluates the implementation of the decisions taken by the convention and the national officials. It deliberates on any matters affecting the organization's health, strategic direction, and community engagement. The roles and functions of the provincial convention: it receives and deliberates on and adopts comprehensive political reports, organizational reports, and financial reports presented by the core team. It also discusses, amends, and proposes new provincial policies. It assesses the effectiveness and composition of and functionality of the provincial and regional structures, making recommendations to ensure grassroots mobilization, movement building, and administrative efficiency. It holds the leadership accountable, the provincial leadership accountable for mandates, conduct, and conduct performance assessments, and where necessary and with approval from national office, initiate processes for redeployment, replacement, and restructuring of the leadership collective. It affirms and institutionalizes the movement's values. It evaluates and impacts provincial programs and campaigns, proposes updates to propose updates, improvement to the provincial application of movement's constitution, to provide a platform for robust political education, advises on and where necessary endorse measure deployments and appointments in the province, provides space for resolving any internal conflict. The delegation and composition of the provincial convention, it shall be determined by the national officials in consultation with the PCT, and the following are the minimum requirements. All regions of that particular province must be represented. 90% of the convention must be from the fully established and legitimate branches. All sub-regional leadership teams, local municipalities must be represented. 50% of the attendance of the attendees must be women. Comrades, we will go through the outcomes and reporting mechanisms of the provinces. The provincial core team is the highest decision-making body in the province, subject to the ideological, political, and organizational guidance of the NCT. Its composition is the officials, all the officials plus 30 additional members. The provincial core team officials are the chairperson, the two deputy chairpersons, the provincial secretary, the two deputy provincial secretaries, the treasurer, the deputy treasurer, the organizer, the deputy organizer, the chaplain, and the 30 additional members that have been spelled out above. The chairpersons and secretaries of the regions are part of the PCT. Maibuya Women's Movement, their secretaries and chairpersons are part. The youth, the student movements are all ex-officio members of the PCT. Shall constitute its provincial working committee, meaning that along the lines of the national officials, the PCT will also have its provincial working committee. And the roles and functions of the PCT are stated from A to W. The limitations, the PCT is not permitted to commit to any short, medium, or long-term contractual or bidding and binding agreements without the approval of the national office. So as the PCT, you can't go and hire an office in the name of Maibu, or go hire staff and put them in your payroll without the approval, or buy cars on loan, and all those particular things. You are not permitted. You are not permitted to enter into bilateral agreements with external parties or stakeholders without the approval of the national office. You are not permitted to dissolve branches or subordinate structures unilaterally. You are not permitted as a PCT to institute disciplinary proceedings, as this remains the exclusive mandate of the National Disciplinary Office. The working committee that the PCT must convene, comrades, its responsibilities are spelled from A to J. Roles and responsibilities of the officials. The provincial chairperson will have the responsibilities covered until they are 10. The first deputy chairperson, we have all the responsibilities there. Commissar Sosko, your roles are covered in 9.9.4. The first deputy secretarial, the responsibilities, basically all the officials' responsibilities, comrades, are covered until you get to page 116. We are very close. The provincial secretariat, Mutandis will apply. Mutanti will apply. That will have more or less the very same people that are in the national secretariat. You have the officials and you have your head of the provincial chairperson's office. You have the secretary of the Women's League. You have the secretary of the Youth League at a provincial level. The responsibilities are also spelled out and they are not different from the responsibilities at a national level. Regional convention. The regional convention is the highest decision-making body authority of Maibuye movement at a district region level. It serves as a core forum for evaluating and redefining regional strategies, ensuring accountability and aligning grassroots implementation with national and provincial directives. The responsibilities of the convention at a regional level include that they will meet every 3 years with the primary responsibility to receive and interrogate reports, recommend updates to the movement's policies and practices, promote alignment between grassroots structures and broader movement, reinvigorate local activism, facilitate leadership review, launch and endorse regional campaigns. The delegation also of the regional convention, all branch leadership structures within the region, branch chairperson and secretaries are required as primary delegates. Sub-regional officials must be included in coordinating and reporting coordinating and reporting purposes. And 50% of the delegation shall be women. Outcomes and reports, you can go through that on your own, comrades. The RCT is the highest decision-making body at the regional level. It's demarcated according to district or metropolitan municipality. Its composition is the officials and the 20 additional members who should come from diverse regions, meaning that you must apply geographical spread when you have your additional members of the RCT. The RCT's officials are the chairperson, the deputy chairperson. We don't have the second deputy chairperson. The regional secretary, the deputy secretary, we don't have the second one. The treasurer, the deputy treasurer, organizer, deputy organizer, chaplain, and 20 additional members. The chairpersons and secretaries of sub-regions, those of the women's movement, the youth movement, the student movement, will serve as ex-officios. The RCT also will be tasked with establishing or constituting its own regional working committee in the same lines as the PCT's working committee, in the same lines as the national officials. Roles and functions of the RCT, you can go through those particular roles, comrades. The responsibilities of the officials are spelled out clearly on 10.7, and 10.7.1 speaks to the responsibilities of the regional chairperson, the responsibilities of the regional deputy chairperson, regional secretary, and all the responsibilities of the officials have been stated. And on page 133 on my document, 10.8, regional secretariat. So you'll also have a regional secretariat at a regional level. Members of the secretariat are more or less the same as those of the province and national, and will include the Women's League, the Youth League, interfaith and traditional movements. The mandates and responsibilities have been stated clearly. The Sub-Regional Convention of Africa Maibuye serves as a coordination and reflection platform of the movement at a sub-regional level. It meets every 2 years to reflect on the implementation of regional and provincial resolutions, evaluate the performance of both as a collective and individual leaders, reassess policy prioritization, provide an open platform for deliberations, strengthen political unity. The roles and responsibilities of the sub-regional convention are also outlined. We also have an SRCT. The SRCT, which is a sub-regional core team, shall be the coordinating structure between the branch and the region, and subject to ideological, political, and organizational guidance of the region, provincial, and ultimately regional core team. It will constitute of officials and 20 additional members. The officials are the chairperson, the deputy chairperson, the secretary, the deputy secretary, treasurer, deputy treasurer, organizer, deputy organizer, chaplain, and the 20 additional members aforementioned. The delegation to the RCT will also include chairpersons and secretaries of women's movement at a sub-regional level, the youth movement, the student movement, and all shall be ex-officio members of the SRCT. The roles of the SRCT are spelled clearly, comrades, and then which brings us to and the responsibilities of each office bearer. Now, on 12, we speak to what is a Maibuye branch. The definition of a Maibuye branch is a basic organizational unit of the movement. It anchors the movement in communities, workplaces, institutions, and voting districts. A branch is where members live, work, study, and organize, serving the primary vehicle through which the movement engages directly with the people and advances its political, social, and economic programs. The President explained earlier on that we have 3 forms of a branch. The first branch would be the VD branch. So the VD branch is established at a VD level with a minimum of 50 paid up members, and it shall be led by the VD core team of 15 members, comprising the top 5 and 10 additional members. The other type of a branch would be the ward branch. The ward branch is established at a ward level with a minimum of 200 paid up members and shall be led by the BCT, composed of 10 officials and 2 additional members and 4 representatives from VD structures, ensuring gender balance and equitable representation. We also, comrades, have made provisions for institutional branches. So institutional branches are established within major workplaces, in your mines, for instance, in your institutions of higher learning, in your huge factories, in government departments, in farms, in malls, in hospitals where there are quarters, and you have people that stay there permanently, in municipal offices, in higher education institutions, in correctional facilities. So in the correctional facilities, we can establish special branches, institutional branches, I beg your pardon, hostels, large estates, apartment complexes. Institutional branches shall belong to their respective ward branches and report through the sub-regional structure. Each member of the movement shall be counted once and belong to a single branch. So the first type of branch will cater for rural provinces, and the second type usually will cater for urban provinces, where there could be a distance, for instance, to get to the next ward. So advisably, you will need to establish a VD branch. Objectives of the branch is to be the living expression of the movement, to recruit and organize and induct members into the movement, to mobilize the community around the local struggles such as jobs, service delivery, housing, land, education, and healthcare, to implement the political line of the movement as guided by the manifesto, the constitution, and directives of higher structures, to promote unity, discipline, and political education among members, to serve as the first point of solidarity, to build alliances with local structures. Functions of the branch, comrades, are also explained, and the guidelines for functions and roles of the branch are explained. And on 12.5 are guidelines for recruitment and reporting. Recruitment shall be coordinated by a branch secretary and ward VD organizers. All membership forms shall be captured and verified by the branch secretary and treasurer, then submitted to the sub-region for consolidation into the national system. Recruiters shall prioritize inclusivity, ensuring branches reflect gender balance, generational mix, and representation of different social sectors. Recruitment shall be carried out through 1. Door-to-door campaigns. 2. Institutional outreach in schools, universities, and workplaces. 3. Visibility programs at taxi ranks, malls, churches, funerals, and cultural events. 4. Political education sessions, social assistance programs, and solidarity campaigns. Accountability and discipline. Branch leaders are accountable to their members and higher structures. Any branch member or leader who misses 3 consecutive meetings without a valid reason shall forfeit the position of that structure. Branches that fail to meet constitutional requirements, including minimum members or regular meetings, may be reconstituted or dissolved by the higher structure. Comrades, on 13, the structure is branch convention. And the branch convention is a primary decision-making forum at a branch level. It reviews implementation of policies, it assesses performance, it evaluates progress in community mobilization, facilitates grassroots-led policy input and participatory planning, reaffirm or amend local operational strategies, meets every 2 years. The composition of delegation is determined by the national officials. All elected branch leadership or officials, branch core team, and voting district leaders, all registered and verified members of the branch in good standing who shall have full speaking rights. So this is the composition, comrades, of and delegation of the branch convention. It will also involve guest observers who may attend at the discretion of the national officials, branch leadership, but shall not exceed 10% of the total number of voting members and may not vote. Democratic elections. The branch convention shall conclude with the democratic election of the new branch leadership, which includes the branch core team and associated position. This process must be conducted as follows. Only members in good standing shall be eligible to vote. So at a branch level, comrades, we are going to have participatory democracy, popular democracy, that will directly elect the leadership of the branch. The entire branch leadership structure shall be elected through a transparent, free and fair voting process presided over by the neutral electoral committee. Gender parity and community representation must be observed. The term of office of the branch leadership is 2 years. Convening authority. The branch convention is convened by the sitting branch secretary in agreement with the chairperson. Proper notice of the convention, including the agenda and nomination procedures, must be issued at least 30 days prior to the meeting. The sub-regional and regional structures must be informed and may assign observers to monitor and support the electoral and deliberative purposes. In terms of decision making, the branch convention shall hold the authority to pass resolutions related to the local implementation of Maibuye policies, recommend amendments to the regional, national policy for consideration, elect and recall branch leadership in accordance with democratic principles and organizational guidelines, initiate or conclude local programs and campaigns. The core team. The branch should be deemed to be legitimate if it has a minimum of 200 fully verified and audited members. Each BCT holds a 2-year term and comprises of 10 elected officials and 15 voting district-based members adjustable by national officials. The BCT meets weekly, while a monthly open branch meeting is held for all community members. Through these regular structures, the BCT acts as the first point of contact for community issues. The composition of the RCT includes of the BCT. The composition of the BCT will include the officials plus 20 additional members. The roles have also been stated. 14, the voting district court team with its roles and functions to drive door-to-door mobilization, community meetings, targeted outreach to grow the movement's presence, identify community influencers, activists, and sectoral leaders to integrate into the party work, recruit new members and maintain an updated local membership list for submission to the BCT, coordinate the identification, training, and development of party agents, assist the BCT in overseeing local voter registration, monitor IEC processes, and act as a frontline structure for election defense and observation, identify service delivery backlogs, and engage with local stakeholders to escalate issues to the BCT. Monitor the performance of local government structures and feed updates to the branch war room. Work with the BCT's specialized committees to direct support to the district. Track, document socio-economic challenges, submit monthly activity reports, monitor gatekeeping and exclusion, assist in the implementation of BCT-aligned programs, disseminate organizational literature, serve as a conduit for BCT, participate in a branch war room by submitting community intelligence, support the establishment of local subcommittees where necessary, hold weekly VDCT meetings, ensure submission of progress reports. Roles and responsibilities, again, comrades, and the responsibilities of each of the officials at the VD level have been spelled out. On 15, the general provision to this constitution is that Maibuye is established as a juristic person with perpetual succession, legal entity separate from its members, the authority to acquire, own, lease, manage, and dispose of movable and immovable property, has a capacity to enter into contracts at an official, national officials level, the capacity to enter into contracts and assume legal obligation in its own name, the right to sue and be sued independently, power to protect its objectives, its members, its assets, and public image, has an authority to engage in lawful actions that advance its revolutionary goals, also has an ability to conduct socio-political campaigns, advocacy, and mobilization, freedom to participate in transformative governance and community programs. The amendment to this constitution shall be passed as a resolution of the National Convention or as a resolution passed by the national officials acting collectively and subsequently ratified by the Special National Convention. Any member or structure attending to or intending to propose an amendment must submit a written notice of intent to the SG no less than 3 months before the convention. The National Core Team through the Secretariat must circulate proposed amendments at least one month prior to the convention to ensure that provincial, regional, and sub-regional and branch structures are adequately informed and prepared to debate and respond. All amendments must be debated in line with the democratic principles of the movement and must aim to strengthen revolutionary discipline, institutional coherence, and long-term strategic objectives of the movement. On 17, Special Convention, the national officials, in consultation with the NCT, may convene a special convention at any time, but not before the first 7 years of the founding NCT either, at its own discretion or upon formal request from the President stating the purpose of the convention. The minimum notice period of 3 months shall be observed before a special convention is held. Delegates to the special convention shall be determined by the national officials in consultation with the national core team in a manner that ensures proportional representation of branches based on membership size, upholds inclusivity and democratic participation from all provinces and sub-regions. The contractual authority, it's tautology. 19, the borrowing authority. The national officials shall have the sole authority to secure loans or financing from reputable institutions or parties, determine the terms and conditions of such borrowing, use movement assets as collateral where necessary, renegotiate or alter such financial agreements in line with the best interests of the movement. The appointment and authority of the PCTs and RCTs. The appointment of the PCTs and RCTs shall rest solely with the national officials of the Africa Maibuye movement. All such appointments must be formally recorded and signed by the President. Once a decision on the appointment or removal of the structure has been taken by the national official, that decision shall be final and binding. There shall never be unilateral appointments or removals of structures. All decisions must be taken collectively by the national officials, ensuring that the entire leadership collective is informed and in agreement. The acceptance of a leadership responsibility carries obligations and legitimate expectation of service. Leaders are expected to fulfill assigned tasks diligently and in line with the movement's mandate. Uphold discipline, accountability, and unity at all times. Implement programs of the movement and provide regular reports. Where there is failure to deliver on responsibilities, the incumbent shall be reassigned or redeployed in line with organizational needs. The PCT shall not have the authority to appoint or remove. The appointment of leaders of fraternal structures, including the women movement and the youth movement at provincial and regional levels, must be approved by the national officials of these structures in consultation with the relevant provincial leadership. Comrades, let's continue on section 10, the Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct, the purpose is it stands as an ethical foundation and operational compass of the movement, which embodies the principles of revolutionary discipline, social justice, and transformative leadership. It sets the behavioral, political, and ideological expectations of every member. Leader within the movement, from the highest national structures to the most localized grassroots forum. This code is binding on all individual members, whether ordinary members or those in leadership. All organizational structures, including national, provincial, regional, sub-regional, branch, and voting district, binding to them. All affiliate entities such as youth, women, veterans, and students, binding. All deployees, contractors, volunteers, representatives, and operating in the name of the movement, it is binding. Objectives of the code is to safeguard the integrity of the movement and its mission, to promote a culture of political discipline, ideological commitment, and ethical conduct, to foster internal cohesion, public trust by holding all members to consistent standard, to prevent and address behaviors that could compromise the movement's revolutionary program or its standing in society, to ensure that all actions of members are in line with foundational values of the Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism, economic justice, and people-centered development. The guiding principles: all members of Africa Maibuya movement are expected to conduct themselves in ways that reflect the movement revolutionary character, commitment to social transformation, and moral vision of the society. Members and leaders shall uphold the Constitution, promote unity and revolutionary discipline, demonstrate humility and public service, act with integrity and political maturity, remain loyal to the movement by defending its decisions and perspectives, respect democratic centralism by participating actively in discussions and internal debate, lead by example through being punctual, accountable, ethical in behavior, protect the image of the movement by speaking and acting in ways that reflect positively on the movement, reject corruption and exploitation by not soliciting bribes, abuse their positions for personal enrichment, or exploit those more vulnerable, especially women, youth, and the elderly. Embrace continuous development by committing to regular political education, ideological growth, and skills development. Leadership conduct standards. The leaders carry the honor and burden of representing the movement by they must exercise a higher level of discipline and strategic clarity. The following principles and standards are mandatory. 1. Servant leadership. 2. No gatekeeping. Leaders must disclose conflict of interest and abstain from decisions that benefit themselves. Leaders must provide regular reporting, attendance of meetings, and delivery on assigned mandates. All leaders must be periodically evaluated and on political performance and ethical compliance. Leaders are discouraged from job hopping, exploiting the movement for career advancement, or abandoning posts during hardship. Leaders must communicate professionally, uphold confidentiality, and act with courtesy across all platforms. Every leader must mentor at least one young cadre to ensure generational succession. Section 11, Disciplinary Structures of Africa Maibuya. The disciplinary structures of Africa Maibuya shall be the National Disciplinary Committee, the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals, the National Prosecutor. There shall be one central disciplinary structure at a national level. All other structures below will not have a disciplinary structure. The Deputy President of Maibuya shall serve as the chairperson of the NDC with the authority to delegate duties to any other NDC member when necessary. The National Core Team shall appoint a minimum of 8 members to serve in the NDC. Any disciplinary outcomes recommending suspension, cancellation of membership, or expulsion shall be submitted to the NDC chairperson, who will then present them to the national officials for adoption. The NDC reports and outcomes involving lesser sanctions must be adopted by a sitting of at least 6 members of the NDC. The NDC shall be the final authority on the interpretation and application of the disciplinary code. Provincial, regional, sub-regional branch shall not constitute separate disciplinary committees. Disciplinary matters are centralized at national level. The national official shall appoint the national prosecutor who should represent the organization in a disciplinary matter. The national prosecutor may recommend up to 7 deputy prosecutors responsible for assisting in disciplinary cases. The National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals shall consist of national officials, excluding the President, Deputy President, and SG. Appeals must be lodged within 21 calendar days following a final outcome issued by the NDC. The President of Maibuye retains the prerogative to overrule disciplinary outcomes from both the NDC and the NDCA, should such outcomes risk compromising the unity, stability, or cohesion of the movement. The national official, upon recommendation of the SG, NDC, NDCA, may cancel membership of any member subject to the conditions outlined in Section 5 of the Constitution. Where any member of Maibuye commits an act defined as misconduct under the Code of Conduct, any member or registered structure may lodge a complaint within 14 days of becoming aware of the offense. Complaints must be submitted to the office of the SG, Provincial Secretary, Regional, or Branch, who will refer them to the Chair of the National Disciplinary Committee for initial assessment. The written complaint must include the nature of the offense, the date, location, and the incident, the name, and the alleged offender. Upon receiving the complaint, the National Disciplinary Initiator must assess whether a disciplinary process is warranted. If so, the member concerned shall be notified and given 48 hours to provide written reason why disciplinary inquiry should not proceed. If the matter proceeds, the National Disciplinary Initiator, in consultation with the NTC, will notify the member of the date, time, venue of the disciplinary inquiry. A member summoned to appear before the NTC is permitted to be accompanied by one representative, who must be a Maibuye member in good standing for at least 90 days prior to the date of the offense. The National Court team holds the authority to amend this Code of Conduct as necessary, provided such amendments shall not be applied retrospectively. Upon the adoption of the amendments or new provisions, shall notify structures and members. Ethical culture and enforcement. Ethics are not enforced only through rules, but through culture. The movement will institutionalize ethics through education, in political education, in sessions that will take place, which will include modules drawn from this Code of Conduct. Each structure must conduct periodic ethics reviews and performance assessments. Each provincial and regional structure must appoint a political and ethical officer. The syllabus must include scenario-based learning to build ethical consciousness and revolutionary accountability. Prohibited conduct include undermining organizational decisions, divisive and counter-revolutionary activities by organizing parallel structures, secret factions, or unauthorized lobbying groups that contradict or bypass the movement's democratic processes, the misuse of organizational resources, the abuse of power and position by using one's role or influence to intimidate, silence, marginalize, manipulate members, especially subordinates and vulnerable groups. Sexual harassment and gender-based violence, including unwanted sexual conduct, advances, coercions, verbal abuse, discriminatory behavior based on gender, sexuality, or identity, defamation and malicious gossip through the spreading of false rumors, defaming comrades or leadership, or undermining trust and unity through baseless accusation. Digital misconduct and data leaks by sharing confidential discussions, internal documents, or member information on public platform, disrespect towards allied structures, including traditional leaders, religious groups, civil society, through public insults or acts of disregard, financial irregularities and corruption, failure to execute mandates, falsification of credentials or records, unauthorized engagement with opposing forces, unauthorized engagements with opposing forces by secretly meeting, negotiating, or collaborating with organizations or individuals hostile to the movement's ideology and objectives. Substance abuse during movement's duties by consuming or being under the influence of alcohol or illicit substances during official movement, work, gatherings, and representation. Substance abuse. Substance abuse during movement's duties by consuming or being under the influence of alcohol or illicit substances during official movement, work gatherings, and representation. Conduct bringing the organization into disrepute by any action, statement, or behavior, whether on or offline, that undermines the dignity, reputation, and public credibility of the movement. Violence and intimidation, discrimination and exclusion, neglect of recruitment and mobilization duties, gatekeeping, unauthorized representation, misconduct in alliances by undermining or violating agreements with coalition partners, affiliates, or fraternal structures. Election-related misconduct include vote buying, manipulation of candidate lists, and using Maibuye structures for personal electoral ambitions. Neglect of political education by refusing or consistently failing to participate in restoration manifesto inductions, study groups, or ideological programs. Dereliction of branch responsibilities in subordination. Adoption and review, this code is ratified, will be ratified by the National Convention, obviously after the inputs from this particular meeting, and it shall be reviewed every 4 years. The interim amendments must be circulated to member comments and before. The glossary explaining the term used, comrades, it's on the last few pages. Will explain what Maibuye is, national core team is, provincial officials, and so forth and so on. Comrades, thank you very much. Amandla.
Maibuye, Africa. Maibuye, Africa. Thank you very much, Comrade Tumelo. Comrades, we have taken 2 documents at once. There is the Africa Maibuye Movement Constitution and the Africa Maibuye Movement Code of Conduct. I'm now going to allow the comrades to make inputs based on those 2 documents. Anything else which is outside this document is not going to be taken. I'm going to have to exercise maximum discipline with regard to the microphone from this point of the podium. I'm noting hands this side. Number 1, the 2 doctors here. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Comrade Masombuka is the last one on this row.
Good afternoon once again, comrades. I took some time off work to come here, so I will give my input. So the first, I'm going to look at the last section that we've done in terms of how we put things. What I want to submit is to say that protocol is also very important within, like for example, in my case, within the RCT. Protocol as simple as how to get a program out there. How do you, and how you recruit. What is the protocol to follow? So that you you are not all over the place, but you know exactly what is going on the ground, where is things happening, how was it done. And also what I like here with the Constitution is that the Constitution is power that we have in our hands as leaders. So if somebody step out of line, sometimes you don't even have to make a noise, but you can use the Bible and say, comrade, this is what you're supposed to be doing and you didn't do that. So how are we going to go forward? So that is the one part. The other part, the first, I think, is section 9 with the PMDS, the Performance Management and Development System. My submission is that if there's a template or if there's some creation of the PMDS of how we're going to go about it, that it filter from national down to the lowest level. And I think the reason why I'm saying that in 2008, I think it's 2007, 2008, I did a master's degree study on the PMDS, and I also published articles on that. So it is important, and I submit that if we have a PMDS, that we start what is ever on top must filter down to the lowest level of regional, so that we can be on the one page and singing from the same hymn song. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. The name is Cindy. So again, just a few handful of points I want to make. I didn't see a mention of the conversion, the changing of the branch structure to the electoral structure during the times of elections. So I think it must be, it should be part of it, so that when we go to elections, we know the standing of the branches. So that is one. Number two, I didn't see also the issue of coalition governments. When you go to elections and there's a stalemate, how do we enter into coalition talks with other parties? So I think it should be included there. And number three, there is mentioned there under the president's duties that the meetings are chaired by the president. So that creates a conundrum, because if the president is not there, then the meeting cannot continue. So I submit that it should say by the president or his delegated authority or official, so that the meeting can continue in the absence of the president. But in terms of the Constitution, if the president does not chair the meeting, that meeting is not legitimate and cannot continue. So let us clear that one as well. And number four, whatever the number it is, the recognition of NPC, non-profit making company. Let us also have it there, because as a party we're going to purchase assets, we're going to purchase equipment, and I think the NPC, the relationship between the party and the NPC must come into the fore in terms of how those come about. And then I'm glad that you said the two were two separate documents, Chair, because I was going to suggest that we separate the two. But from what you said, those are two different documents, the Constitution and the Code of Conduct. We must also talk about, Chair, the issue of conscience versus party line, especially when we go to elections, what authority do we have if I'm in the council? Do I vote in terms of my conscience, or even at National Assembly or Provincial Legislature, or do we vote according to the structure, the command from the top, which we call party line? That must also come in, I think, so that we know. On the part of the Code of Conduct, I think let us also be specific and mention unruly and disruptive behavior, because not everybody who's unruly is drunk. I don't drink myself, but I can be unruly and disruptive in meetings and conferences. So let us mention that, so that people who throw people with chairs and all that. They take down the banners during conference or conventions and branch conventions. Let us also define that is unacceptable conduct, unruly and disruptive behavior. The last one is the naming convention that I want to suggest once again, Chairperson. We have the president of the youth movement, Masike. We have the president of the women, Dr. Nosi. We have the president of the student movement that we will have. We have the president of Mawusa. So we have all these presidents, and we have a president of Maibuye. So when I come from outside and you mention these presidents, I see equals. They are presidents, all of them, they are equals. So it is my submission that the president of Maibuye movement should be the president general. I submit.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to the entire leadership led by our president. Chairperson, I only have 3 issues, Chair. In fact, the points that I want to make. The first one is under that section deals with sub-regional secretariat office. Composition, the composition of sub-regional secretariat, office. There they have mentioned, or we have actually mentioned, the Interfaith and Traditional League. So I'm not sure either it is consistent with our movement to refer to it as a league, since our organizations are all youth movement, women's movement like that. So if it is an organization, I suggest that we correct it and make it the movement. The second point is under roles and functions of structures, especially, I think, all structures. There I want to suggest, Chairperson, that under the roles and functions of all structures, we include and make it as a constitutional obligation to develop a program of action. All structures. I raised that point. I'm not sure either it will qualify to be part of the constitution, but I think we need to intensify in terms of ensuring that all structures are obligated to develop their program of action, and which is going to also allow the process of accountability to be handled maybe fairly, because to expect a report from structures that did not indicate what are they planning to do, when and who is responsible for those programs and what resources are needed for that program, I think it is slightly unfairly to hold structures accountable for something that they never indicated that they will do. We will end up not able to hold accountable our structures if we do not have program of action. Also, I suggest that if we can have a session like this as well to educate about developing program of action, to deal thoroughly with that issue, because maybe we can have different understanding when we talk about program of action. To have such session, I think, will allow us to have one understanding and one formula toward it. The last point is about reporting lines. I think that is also related to the document that we dealt with, but it is also in the Constitution, which deals with reporting lines. This raised a concern, especially, Chair, when we began with this session, just that during that period, it was not. Yes. So the reporting lines, especially, I think it must be clear, even the reportings of absence, that who do you report to when you are absent, to avoid a situation where we have many people reported, yet maybe it was not reported correctly or to the correct office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the national officials led by the President. Chair, I only have 3 input. One will be on the delegation to the convention. So the Constitution as presented read that 50% of the delegation shall be female. I think we might maybe need to revise it into saying a minimum of 50% delegation should be female, meaning we can have more than 50%. At this stand, it only says we must only have 50%. But secondly, Chair, is just a correction in page 171, where we referred to the NCT as the National Consultation Forum instead of the National Core Team. The last one, Chair, is on the Code of Conduct. I think it is going to be very important, Chair, that once an alleged offender is charged with any misconduct, there should be a stipulated time frame in terms of by when should the disciplinary proceedings be concluded. And in this case, I suggest, Chair, that we say all cases should be concluded within 90 days of the alleged offender being charged. So once we charge an offender, we give it 3 months or 90 days to make sure that that case is closed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mnikelo Siwisa, Provincial Chaplaincy, Eastern Cape. First point, I would just want to probably let's appreciate the Constitution as it's going to assist us in terms of our functionality as structures, because sometimes we'll find that there were contradictions and confusing understanding on how should we perform our duties. From now on, I think we'll be better off in understanding what to be done. Secondly, Chair, will be probably a proposal that when the Constitution is finalized and adopted, can it be translated into our indigenous Aboriginal languages so that it can be able to resonate with our people on the ground? I understand English is an international lingua franca sometimes, which is mistakenly utilized or perceived as a tool for one being an intellect, whereas sometimes it deprives our ordinary people in understanding what the Constitution of my boy, which will bring that distinctiveness in terms of our movement when it talks to everyone. Lastly, Chair, I'm not sure where should this be placed, but if I were to propose that probably this a tool must be developed in terms of as assessment tool for the performance of leaders from various structural structures of the organization, probably the office of the SG, to assist in terms of how do we do that particular work of assessing our performances. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Chair. Hoping that the Constitution for now will remain a living document. I just wanted to make two minor suggestions. There's a subsection D there in the responsibilities of the President. I think that maybe let that be rephrased or a bit clarified on the appointment of structures, because I think it operates or it becomes operable under circumstances where there are no structures. The other thing that I noticed, I am not too sure, I've just tried to scour the document. It does, the word quorum is mentioned twice, né? But what an actual quorum is not actually mentioned. I may be right or wrong there, but I would also suggest that on that basis, we allow it to remain a living document in order for us to work together to tighten up certain areas. The last of these that I want to point out for now is amongst the responsibilities of the Secretary General, the presentation of the organizational report. It's not included there. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, National Chair. This is Comrade Kwavu from the Eastern Cape. Just quickly, I think I've got about 3 or 4 points. The first one would be perhaps borrowed from Antonio Gramsci, which talks about cultural hegemony, because we are in a very complex organization whereby there's Mawusa, there's Maibuye Medics, and other bodies. So I think it would be empirical that we have some sort of theory that binds those organizations together, so that whenever there would be difficulties in some issues, we would reflect on those theories. The second point that I want to make is perhaps if we could reimagine our organization in a sense that we never talk a lot about new terminologies in an organization, because, for instance, VDs, we could say that VDs are the roots of an organization. So the roots comprise of traditional leaders, civic organizations, and other bodies that would then create that particular branch. So those are some of the submissions that I want to make, Comrade Chair. And perhaps that would also assist in membership being a dangling carrot for leadership positions. Because if we just recruit, people are always tempted to assimilate into leadership positions. So having different sectors in recruitment, when we are saying that we are going to launch a branch, there must be different sectors that would assist a lot. Reflecting on the consultation as well, that what were the leadership principles that were there? It was young people, it was professionals, it was traditional leaders. So let us not forget that memory where we come from and integrate it in our constitution as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to the leadership and to the incoming president of the country. Mine is on. My name is Charles Masombuga from Mpumalanga, Nkangala region, Steve Chwete sub-region. Mine is on membership, Chair. We'll remember that we crisscrossed the country consulting, asking people and leaders of societies whether we should open a church or a political party, and they agreed that we must open a political party. There's one sector or one community that maybe was overlooked at some point to be consulted, maybe because of their doings also in society. In South Africa, we have 235 prisons where we have members of our societies and potential voters as well. And we have 245 sub-regions or municipalities, 8 metros, and so forth. So now, the prisons that we have that are harboring our brothers and sisters who are there because of whatever that they have done, and they are prepared to be corrected and become better members of the society. All those people are still members of our societies and are people who are eligible also to vote. I'm seated here, Chair, next to one Comrade Temba, whom alone can convene all those 335 prisons. We know him because of what he is doing also outside Maibuye in his podcast, speaking to our brothers and sisters who are from those buildings. It is my appeal then to my fellow leaders there that can we at some point maybe consider a program to go and consult now, not to ask them if we should open a political party, but to consult them and tell them that an alternative that will help them not to go back to prison again has been formed, which is in Maibuye. Khosimampur alone has over 7,000 inmates. 7,000 inmates translated into PR votes. We are talking about 7 to 8, even 9 seats in Tshwane. In Polsmo, we have 8,000 inmates as well. So if we can calculate those numbers as we wrap it up, yes, it is important that we also consider those comrades who are behind those walls, because they are still our people and they will come back and seek solutions from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My question is in relation with the powers of the President vis-à-vis the powers of the National Convention. I saw on the Constitution that there is a clause which I found it to be very important, and I'm comfortable with it, I must say up front, that the President has the power to overrule the decision of the National Disciplinary Committee. Now, I want us to get an explanation, or we should all of us explain the powers of the National Convention, because if the National Convention has the power to adopt the Constitution, it then also means that it also has the power to reject the adoption of to reject the Constitution and the decision of the organization prior to the National Convention. So I want us to explain that one. I'm not going to explain that. I know we have said before that we must bring answers, but unfortunately in this instance it's difficult to give that answer alone. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Greetings, leadership. Mine it's a question of clarity on an institutional branch, and I'll give hypnotic on it. You find the youth league, or you find a student movement in an institution, and they've got their own organization. And student, because young people are agitated to come and have influence to the mother body. I know they'll come up and say we must swell the ranks of the mother body because we are the future. Do we allow that? Can a Maibuye branch exist in conjunction with in conjunction with the student movement? Thanks.
My name is Mweti Bila. Firstly, I would like to thank the drafters of the Constitution. Yeah, I've said it already. I said I'm Mweti Bila. First of all, I would like to thank the drafters of the Constitution and the Code of Conduct. It lays the foundation for our organization to deal with issues of governance and complying with those core values and principles which we highlighted throughout since yesterday. I will comment only on, how you have dealt with the issue of, the NCT as the highest decision-making body. Experience is the greatest teacher. I know this used to, somewhere, it used to be a problem, and I would like to say thank you. It is so it's coined so perfectly that it shows the role of, the NCT versus the role of the national officials, and how the whole NCT as a team will be respected in terms of the submission of the comprehensive report. So it's quite very exciting. But on NCT again, based on the experience, just for this short period, whilst we were doing the consultations in provinces, I will maybe share a little bit in terms of where I was, allocated or deployed. As NCTs, I think because, members were selected randomly, we have seen that some, they have never attended, the NCT meetings or all these meetings that we had. And I don't know whether they are aware, because I remember we took it upon ourselves and checked as to whether they are aware, and they indicated, no, I don't want to be there. So I'm saying, can we come up with, maybe some, not a template, but maybe a plan in terms of how do we select, these, members, so that they assist in terms of the implementation of the organization core strategy, because I see a lot of work that will be expected. Let me just stop there. Thank you.
Okay, sanibonani nonke. Igama lami nguzoleka Malifane from Sidibeng region in Midval. I noticed a constitution, there is where we say women's league, there is where we say women's movement. Can we please correct that one? Thank you.
Greetings, leadership. Usibongile Majabi Msomi from Gauteng province, the PCT. And in our constitution, I see there is no mention of the deployment, the duties, rules, how the deployees operate. In Gauteng, we already have a document that exists that talk about that. I was hoping that I'll see it here in the constitution just to make sure that it's in line with the organization. Thank you.
Molweni nonke igama uThabang Magele, Gauteng, location Soweto. Chair, due to high level of unemployment, we've got comrades who are working for companies that are owned by our ideological opponents. What do we do about them? Ngiyabonga. Ngibone ku code of conduct.
Greetings, Chair. My name is Lungile Miller, and sorry. Greetings, Chair, and to leaders. My name is Lungile Miller, and I am part of the youth structure. I am just standing to make a request, really. I was looking at the composition of the NCT, and I did notice that the women, youth, and students movement was just quickly put into one point, and only 2 delegates are represented within the NCT. So I just wanted to request for 4 seats as well from the various structures. I submit.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Wachile Lebesi from the Free State. I was hoping that somebody was going to raise this and I don't have to talk. Chair, we first have to commend, I believe I have to say, National Working Committee for this wonderful work, producing these documents. It should probably have been very difficult with the timelines that this was produced in. And I want to talk directly to the issue of discipline. I believe that it was well thought and with good intentions, but Chair, the issue of only having a disciplinary committee at national may have unplanned and unwanted consequences, because I'm saying this because if you look at the entire country, we probably having about 4,000 wards. Now, as National Disciplinary Committee having to deal with issues all over the place, may end up having a backlog that is not going to be good for the progress of the organization, because the issue of discipline is a very sensitive matter that can make or break the progress of the organization. I want to make a submission that the disciplinary committees should also be formed at the provincial level and at the regional level. Of course, where it entails expulsion, maybe we may say that the National Disciplinary Committee will have the prerogative to review outcomes of those particular levels, such that we minimize maybe the risk that had been seen by leadership that it may be abused by those levels. But unfortunately, leadership that does not have teeth is going to be. Already we have name droppings. I can write a book bigger than the documents that we have seen here through the name dropping. So my submission is that there should be provincial disciplinary committees. There should also be regional disciplinary committees, of course, with limited powers. I submit.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, leadership. My name is Daniel Tatu, Francis Bart, Region, Pokwane, Woten, Sub-Region, Provincial Spokesperson of the Northern Cape. I noticed in the Constitution that at the national structure, provincial structures, and regional structures, all offices and portfolios are covered and they are explained. But what is the composition with regards to the 30 additional members of the PCT? What happens to those portfolios there? What do we call the office bearers as such? That's number one. Number two is that should in 2029 the province get 10 seats in the Northern Cape legislature, my question there, Chair, is there any policy or document or guideline that would guide us with regards to who goes first into those positions with regards to the deployments when we get to that. I did not see that in the constitution. Thank you. Mine would be that. Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon, leaders. All protocols observed. My name is Abdul Valodia. I'm from KZN, Ward 31. Chair, I actually like to know, and also a solution. We're actually running, the main game that we're going to look is the local elections that's coming up. And my main concern, when I look at all the regions and I look at the branches, I want to know regarding the selections of the members that we're looking at. How are we selecting these members to bring in the organization onto the branches and the regions? Being a PCT member, I myself, I can speak for my region. I haven't seen how members were selected regarding their CVs. Because tomorrow we don't want to be standing with Africa Maibuya and we have people that's on the ground and we might be called Dololos. I learned this new word from Gwede Mantash, where he addressed the 4,000 members calling them Dololos. So we don't want to be recognized in this name. And I think it's very important for us to make sure that when we have a selection, the selection must be done in a proper way where CVs are presented, and it must be caucus among NCT members or even the structures to make sure that these members are all what we can select to, what we put there. Thank you.
Kilebo leadership. My name is Stefan Mutiti from Ward 10, Kwasat in Fezile Dabi municipality in the Free State. Negereki yetse ntshonyana tse ntlatse pedi tse tharonyana. Ya pedi ke Council of Elders. We are told about Council of Elders what they are going to do, but we don't know the composition. Maybe if the composition can be added, and then the other structures like your PCT, RCT, BCT, and okay, the structures on the constitution, they don't correspond with those on the on the manifesto. I think if they can correspond. For example, if you look at the BCT on the manifesto, it says 15 leaders, and on the constitution it says 10 plus 2, 10 officials and 2 additionals. And lastly, on page 138 of the Constitution, there is a misplaced, a paragraph. It is paragraph C under the SRCT. It speaks about the RCT while it is under the SRCT. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Let me treat also the President and also the leadership at large. My name is Mtobeli, and I'm based here at the city of Johannesburg. I'm coming from Eastern Cape. That is my home. I think that I want just to give submission in terms of program of actions, especially with training. I think that we don't need to forget Itran Force, especially through what they call political ideology. I think on that we need those people who are going to do it. They must make sure that at least people they are educated in terms of political ideology. That is my submission. Thank you.
Changing batteries.
President to make reflections. Comrade President.
Maibuye, yeah, Africa. No, thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to all the members of the NCT and of the PCTs and RCTs that have got to reflect on this otherwise working document. I think the understanding that we have established, all of us, is that it is going to be a binding document now, including the code of conduct. So once we have adopted it, once we have adopted the constitution, we will have the collective authority to guide all of us. That is after we have adopted it. But adopting it doesn't mean that we cannot continuously review the document. So even in the lead up to the national convention, we must still enrich it and make sure that some of the aspects that are there are revised. We cannot work without a foundational perspective and document that guides our behavior and how we deal with certain issues. So once we have adopted it as this extended national core team, even when we release the final version, it must state that as adopted by the national core team, the extended national core team, and it then becomes applicable. Now, the few issues that we have to deal with, I think in these formative stages, it's safe to have a single disciplinary committee at a national level. If you devolve it or decentralize it to regions and provinces, you will go to a province and you will find more than half the membership expelled or suspended. And it's not fiction. You know, in the other organization, when I was national organizer before I was a secretary general, I once went to Polokwane to convene members of that other organization there. And the comrade who was a convener of the province there, had expelled more than 200 members. And the list of people who were expelled when they were, I think Comrade Daphne was there. He was part of that leadership. Of those that were expelled, there were school principals and like prominent community leaders. Without mandate there, I just said that all those expulsions are expelled. All those members are reinstated, all of them. Because I realized, and when we ask the comrade, where do you get the powers to expel people like that? He says, no. I saw that the president on top has got powers to remove people, so I was doing the same thing. As well here. I was just applying a principle. So, let the organization gain the necessary strength and have the necessary systems in place, then we will be able to devolve the disciplinary powers to all the structures. For now, the Constitution and Code of Conduct says if there is violation of the Code of Conduct and the Constitution, all what members and structures can do is to lodge the complaint, and then that the National Prosecution's Office should be able to immediately attend to all the complaints that come from the lower structures. And it will not be very difficult to deal with disciplinary issues in this intervening period, because at least for now, the leadership is still permitted to cancel membership of members without a long process. If some of the violations are way clear that this is just the entire disrespect of the organization, disruption of meetings, usage of unacceptable language, and there's prima facie evidence that this comrade has misbehaved, there won't be any need to constitute a disciplinary committee. We'll just write a letter after collective discussion that you are no longer a member of Africa Mobile Movement. And then we move on without having to deal with the difficulties. That way, we will be able to nip in the bud wrong practices and tendencies. The difficulty, comrades, is that once the organization is fully fledged and established, you can have a violation of the constitution and organizational principles, and disciplinary processes take forever. We can give you multiple examples of where violations, sometimes even extreme violations, would occur, and then the comrades always submit doctor's letters on the day of the DC and signed by a doctor. And you are not a doctor, you don't have mechanism to say, but you are not sick. And then they will drag you for many months, and with prima facie wrongdoing that has been committed in terms of the issues. I think that if the leadership agrees, we can agree on the 4 fraternal representation per movement structure, like youth, students, and women in the NCT, so that there is higher participation. And the other issue, I think the other issues is where there is a mention of a leak. I think the principle that was agreed upon was that it's a youth movement, student movement, and women's movement. There was a proposal that we must move away from the leaks. We don't have a problem. If that is the understanding, it can be captured in that way. And everywhere where gender balanced is mentioned, it must say minimum of 50% female representation. So a delegation, a conference, a structure can have more females but cannot have more males. In any way, in South Africa, the larger number of people in South Africa are females. So if you constitute a structure which has got females as minority, that structure is not democratic, is not a reflection of society as a whole. So each and every leadership structure of Africa Maibuye, each and every gathering or delegation of Africa Maibuye must have a minimum of 50% female representation, so that females play a central role in leadership responsibilities. And another issue which we picked up in the province, where we started with the political induction, is that by all means possible, if the province is going to appoint regional chairpersons and secretaries or recommend such, it can always be males, the two of them. So the province which we want to do induction at first, I don't want to mention by name, Comrade Mike Mater, we purposefully said that when they introduce the regional chairs and secretaries, they must call them in front. And it was unfortunately males only. And we can't have that. So if the regional chair, because it's us who are designating the rules, if the regional chair is male, at least the regional secretary must be female. And vice versa. We must never have a situation, because that also disrupts the gender balance in structures, because the regional chairpersons and secretaries will sit in the provincial core team. So if you have got 11 regions in KwaZulu-Natal and then you are doing males for regional chairs and secretaries, it means you have added 22 males into the PCT. The same with Limpopo, is 10 males into the PCT because there's 5 regions and the chairpersons and secretaries are males. So we have to necessarily balance that at regional level, at sub-regional level, so that we have an organization that is truly reflective of the society that we are living in. It's not true that females cannot play the roles, the main roles of being regional chairpersons and regional secretaries. My experience actually demonstrates that they are actually much more dependable than and I think as a matter of principle, wherever there's quorum, let us say it's 50% plus 1. So quorum of every meeting and structure is 50% plus 1 person. So 50% plus 1 person. That is the principle that we should maintain, that if the structure is 20 people, at least there must be 10 people plus 1 person, so 11 minimum in terms of how we should handle all of those issues. I will deal, comrades, like, let's not. The problem, Cindy, is that if you ever extend this thing of conscience and everything else, it will be abused. If you say members of the organization are allowed to defy organizational line and vote according to their conscience, they're going to do that every day. You will say to them that don't appoint a municipal manager, don't vote for this budget. They'll say, no, my conscience says that we must vote for this person. So let us not have that loophole. There will, of course, be political discussion and deliberations as to how we deal with issues of conduct in the public representation spaces. For 10 years, not for 10 years, I think from 2016 to 2014, I was responsible for oversight of first 725 councillors and later on 1,200 councillors. And they know Musa, Slumko, all of those were in councils. That majority of times they would ask for guidance. As to there's a budget, there's a speech, how do you vote? I will ask them, how do you want to vote yourself? We'll throw it back to them. And then once they come with a sound position, we'll say, no, proceed in that direction. So even here, we're not going to try to micromanage anyone. We will expect all those that are deployed in positions of responsibility to act with revolutionary clarity and consistency, so that there is no need, none whatsoever, to try to micromanage anyone. Like, if we, all of us, ascribe to the principles that guide the movement, there will never be any need to micromanage anyone. And comrades, the Constitution is not a trap to try to trap you into wrongdoing and then be punitive against members of the organization. It's a guiding document, it's a guiding principle to say, this is who plays which role, so that we do not have a situation where people appropriate for themselves powers that they do not have. Because at formative stages, you run the risk, if you do not have a constitution, of creation of parallel structures, where everyone feels like they've got an authority to could go and establish a structure at ward level, at VD level, at sub-regional level, at a regional level. And in some other areas of South Africa, if you wrongly create parallel structures, you will cause and make comrades to fight amongst themselves. More so when we are going to local government elections, because they will all say we're legitimate, were established by so and so, were established by so and so. And there can only be one candidate per political party for each and every ward of the 4,468 wards in South Africa. But if you've got parallel structures, they will all feel like they're entitled to field candidates, and they will fight each other. In a province that has got the highest levels of political killings, The killings happened because of local government, by the way. It's not about provincial legislature and all of those issues. It's on contestation of the local state. We cautioned some other parties that please don't create parallel structures because your members will kill each other. So we must not have that here in Maibuye, because we must run a disciplined, focused, determined and clean organization that is driven by integrity and consistency on everything else that we do. So comrades, for now, once we adopt the constitution and the code of conduct, we all should be bound by it, and we must be guided by it, and we must act on it. The women's movement must establish all the structures of the women's movement. The religious desk must establish all the structures of the religious desk, including the chaplaincy, which the constitution says must be established. The youth must establish the youth movement. The students must establish the students' movement and be present in all the TVET colleges, universities of technology, and universities, so that we are present in all corners of South Africa and run the organization in a positive way. There is no threat, none whatsoever, that we are doing a constitution or building a constitution because it's used as a trap or a threat to members. It's a guiding document which all of us must internalize. And in practice, we will begin to realize which areas do we enrich. So by the time we get the conversion in November, we would have picked up the weaknesses of the working document which the Constitution is, and then get to enrich it so that we are able to guide a far much more clear organization as to how it move forwards. The other issues, comrades, of the roles of deployees of the NCT in provinces and the roles of the PCT deployees in regions doesn't belong here. That gets handled in a guideline which the SGO will issue out to say that this is what is expected from each and every deployee. Also, when we talk later about the deployment to different provinces and clusters of wards, we will explain what are the guiding principles and values and contours that will define each and every one. Otherwise, comrades, thank you very much that we have all reflected on the Constitution and we are on the verge of adopting it as a working document that will guide all of us. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Comrade President, for the reflection on the documents, both the documents, the Africa Maibuye Movement Constitution and the Africa Maibuye Code of Conduct. Comrades, I'm now going to take hands suggesting that we adopt the documents with all the amendment made. Comrade Abdul, let us hand over the microphone. Let's hand over the microphone. I'm noting Comrade Abdul here. I need a hand this side. Comrade Mafanya. Let's go to Comrade Abdul first.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move for the adoption of the Constitution and with the amendments. Thank you.
Where?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julian Glovu, Deputy Organizer from Tshwane. I hereby in support of adoption to this movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, comrades of the extended Africa Maibuya Movement NCT meeting. The Constitution and the Code of Conduct of Africa Maibuya Movement has been adopted by this collective. I'm going to request that we take a 15-minute break and then we come back to do an organizational report, which is going to be a closed meeting. Now, we are breaking now at almost 5:30. Let us be back at 5:45, 5:45. 5:45. Thank you, comrades.